Building Committee meeting will be in order at 7 o'clock. I don't know if we have any minutes. Do you have any minutes? It's been a while since we had minutes.
I don't, because I think I missed the last meeting or I called in. It's just, it was weird.
I think you're right. So, all right, then we'll go to the business at hand. When we were last together, we made the selection of Vertex as the OPM, and subsequently Dennis and Joe were able to negotiate contract OPM services with Vertex, and in a nutshell, they put out an RFP, and the only respondent was Weston Sampson. So surprisingly, but here we are. So guess we'll start with Mr. Kirby.
Okay.
Everybody, I think you know everybody, I think.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Just as a reminder, my name is Steve Kirby from Vertex and Stirs. And John Lemieux is online, and want to introduce yourselves.
Sure. My name's Mike Richard. I'm from Weston and Sampson.
Tony Westbizer, also with Weston and Sampson.
And I'm Paul Flaherty. I'm the supposed to be the chairman of this committee, but I'll run the meeting, and I defer to all my construction friends here for their sage advice.
My name's John Moen. Good evening, Brian.
Dan Lazars.
Joe Layton, the town manager. Dennis Westgate.
Okay, so just from all my presentations, I'm going to do a recap of what's been going on for the last couple months. As Paul said, we had the OPM selection. The RFQ came out in November. We had a briefing session on November 20th. We submitted a proposal in December. The interviews were held in February, and Vertex was selected as OPM on March 19th. We had an initial fee proposal that we submitted, and that was discussed and reduced to the current fee proposal of $55,000. We want to make sure that there was enough funding that you had of the $235 to do a proper SD evaluation by Weston and Sampson. And our contract was issued on May 8th. Designer selection, designer RFQ was issued on April 9th. We had the briefing session on the 14th of April. As again, Paul said, we had one designer proposal received on the 24th. Because of that, we decided not to have any designer interviews. Weston and Sampson was selected on May 1st. Again, we had a fee proposal from Weston Sampson that was $183,050. That came over our funding amount of the $235. We discussed it, and they revised it to $175,000. That gives us what is committed now is $230,000. Gives us $5,000 in contingency in case something comes up that we need to add to our schematic design evaluation and our public outreach. And then we're here tonight to ensure that Weston and Sampson is accepted by the committee. Sort of some slides that you're going to see on a monthly basis. The budget schematic design is going to go to the cost estimate. I put down September. I know you have a schedule that may change that, but sometime in towards in the fall, getting ready for the November town meeting, and we'll also be looking at designer, OPM, FF&E, and the soft costs, not just construction. Anticipated milestone dates, schematic design and cost estimates. We'll be working on that from now, May through October. I've sort of got community outreach pegged for the fall, September to November. Town meeting request is going to be for design development, construction documents, pre-qualification, and bidding funds. That town meeting will be sometime in November. I don't know if you have a date yet, but I know your town meeting's usually in November. Then design development, construction documents, pre-qualification and bidding go from November to May 2026. Community outreach again, figured that start up in January to May, and all of these timeframes are high level. They're all subject to tweaking. Town meeting request for construction funds with a bid in hand in May of 2026. And ideally, with approvals, we'll be starting construction June of 26, November 27, and have closeout December of 27. Again, high level schedule. We'll get down into more of the weeds as we get into schematic design. Short-term look ahead. Again, we're here tonight. Issue and execute the designer contract with Weston and Sampson. We want to schedule a kickoff meeting with the DPW working group, which would be made up of the town members, Vertex and Weston and Sampson. And I want to try and determine who's going to be on that working group, because those will be meetings that'll happen during the working day. And then we want to schedule some working group meetings. And there is an invoice. I don't know if we want to talk about invoices tonight. Usually the procedure's been the committee gives the final approval on that. We did have, we did work in April to get the design out. So we did submit an invoice, and the invoice goes along with our contract and our lump sum schedule of payments.
That's,
Yeah, I mean, we've received the invoice, because we hadn't met, I hadn't really given it any thought as far as forwarding it to the committee for then at next meeting to then approve, if that's sort of the will of the committee, sort of like what was done with the building committee, can easily do that. I can actually pull up and share the invoice so that people can see it, or when Weston Sampson starts the presentation, I can print it off so that you all have a copy. We could consider it as other business.
with the,
Yeah, I was just gonna, as I said,
well, with the community center, the committee would meet, Steve would make a presentation, submit his bill, and it went to the manager, because when it started out, Derek was here, and the deal was send it to Derek, copy the committee, and, the committee met and then approved the.
Yeah, I was just following what we did on the community center. We
Yeah.
can change it if you want to. I just figured we get it out there.
We were the over there, the community center, we were meeting on a regular basis, at least monthly. And I know we got a tight timeline to hit here, so. I don't have a problem if the bill went directly to Joe to get paid. I'll ask the rest of the group what they think.
It's short, no, I don't have a problem calling to Joe, correctly.
We never changed anything.
No,
So-
I mean, at some point, there'll be two invoices to look at.
Yeah,
And hopefully as we go farther along, there'll be more.
And
You'll have.
this one was a lot of more administrative work, sort of preparing contract, getting Weston Sampson on board. So it hasn't been in the warrant yet, but I can easily just print it off so that everyone can take a look and see at least what it is. So.
Do you have an invoicing schedule put together? What do you plan on? Is that?
We set it up as a monthly lump sum, and it's in the contract.
So I'd be okay with just processing that one.
and just notice the committee that it was paid.
Yeah.
And Kenny's gonna keep track of it anyway.
We're gonna keep track of it in our office. We still have to sort of make sure that we're on the same page as far as if my office is just keeping track. I'm processing this first one. was more setting it up, and just easier for us to take care of that.
And at a certain point in time, we're gonna have what we would call the VIP package where, you know, vendor invoice package. We'll have ours and Weston and Sampson's together, and that will have a budget sheet that will sort of recap what's committed, what's spent to date, what's remaining.
Yeah.
So I know you'll do your own, but you'll have sort of belt and suspenders on that tracking.
John Wesley, you on board with this?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you can hear me,
Yes.
Mr.
We
Chairman.
can hear you now.
Oh, brilliant. Yes, I am totally on board with that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I would say as long as you're following your proposed schedule that's on that, that I see now that's on here, that there'd be no reason to bring anything else additional. It won't be something, I know that that's proposed, if there was something that varied from that, then I would say we'd have to talk about that first.
Well, again, this is Vertex's first rodeo with the town of Upland, so.
If we have to modify
There's
things,
a couple of times where we had to say, hang out, he had to say, where's the check? But that was a split through the cracks at that point, but otherwise, we pay our bills in a very timely manner. So we'll take that as a sense of the committee to just send the bills through to the manager.
okay, so I'll delete this from future committee meetings.
Unless you feel it's necessary to comment on it.
That was all I had. It's just sort of just a recap of what we've been doing over the last couple of months. Now I will. First up, turn it over to Mike.
Presentation mode. Yeah. Excellent, thank you. So let's see if this works. There we go. All right, great. So we put together just a quick presentation for you. It should be about 10 minutes. What we're going to do is we're just going to walk through just introduction and just a little bit about our qualifications. I think some of you might have been involved in the original project, but I don't know that everybody has. So we're also going to recap just what the work is done that's been completed to date, obviously on a high level. And then we'll just talk next steps in schedule and have a little spot there at the end for questions and discussion, but feel free just if you have questions as I'm talking, feel free to just raise your hand and speak up. So again, my name is Mike Richard. I'm the discipline leader for the facilities group at Weston and Sampson. I'll talk a little bit more about what the facilities group is in the next slide. With me today is Tony Westbizer. He is a senior project manager, team leader, and senior team leader actually in our group, in the facilities group, and he's going to be your project manager for your project. He's going to be your primary point of contact throughout this project. Not able to be here tonight is JP Parnas. He is a senior architect with our group. Him and Tony, you'll probably see a lot together, particularly at these meetings, staff interviews, things like that. Architects are really kind of the hub of everything that happens with the design. Also not here tonight is Jeff Alberti. Jeff started the project with you back in 2017. He's now the president, but he still is very much involved in the design work that we do. So he'll be keeping a close tab on the work that happens, and I'm sure he'll poke his head in every now and then as well. So And as I mentioned, Tony's gonna be the primary point of contact, but if you ever worked with us before, you can reach out to any one of us. We just have an open communication in-house. We find it works best. So feel free to reach out to any one of us as appropriate. So the facilities group at Weston and Sampson, we're one of 6 disciplines of Weston and Sampson engineers. The other ones are water, wastewater, EGE, which is environmental, geotechnical, and energy, transportation, and design, which is landscape architects primarily. So, and then there's us. We are the smallest group of the 6 disciplines at Weston and Sampson. We have about 45 staff, 35 are based here in New England. We specialize in public works and similar type facilities. In the last 20 years, we've been involved with more than 150 different public works projects. They're all in various phases. Some of them have been constructed. Some of them have only gone through a feasibility study. Some of them are in design. I think in the last 20 years, we've constructed about 50 complete so far. We have a couple more in construction, a couple more that are going out right now. So other work that we do is we do a lot of fleet maintenance facilities. It kind of goes hand in hand with the DPW work. We do a lot of support systems such as salt sheds, fuel islands, and similar type projects as well. So that's the facilities program in a nutshell. It's kind of a nice little niche that I don't think a lot of other firms really specialize in. So now about your project. So the original contract, I believe, was 2017. And we've been through a programming exercise, and we have done review and confirmation. We've been through a couple of different steps along the way. When we first did the programming, we ended up with a program of almost 27,000 square feet. My understanding is the whole time we always talked about repurposing the existing building, which is about 9,000 square feet. We went through a review of that program. We dropped it down to about 26,000 square feet. And then later, we added in the water and sewer group, and that square footage increased. And then that led us to additional review and cuts. And we got to where we are now, which is 28,700 square feet. We're still talking of using that existing operations building, which means a new construction of about 19,700 square feet. So this is the existing site, and the blue highlights are the enclosed structures. It's hard to see in this, but there's some great areas, which is, something like a canopy or other storage areas. And then there's some dash lines. It's just an open storage area. So that's the building that we're talking about renovating, repurposing. And we also talked about reusing or relocating the fuel island and relocating the fabric structure. And those would be located to the I'll call it, for the purpose of this presentation, south. I think it's actually southeast, but the south end of the building. And then the preferred concept looks something like this. So we're repurposing that area on the left for some offices, some shop space, and some storage space. And then we're adding an addition going east for vehicle storage, wash bay, vehicle maintenance.
Mike, I'm gonna back you up a slide. I looked at this slideshow before we left and didn't catch this. The fabric structure we're relocating is actually just to the right of the main building.
Okay.
What we selected was the salt shed.
Son of a gun.
So just make that minor correction. It would be, I don't know if you can point, Mike, but there's a white semicircular structure to the just next to the main building. That is what would be relocated over next to the diesel fuel. So apologize for any confusion of it.
I don't want to
Yeah.
put the laser in someone's eyes. I was saying that doesn't add up. Okay. So anyways, so what we also talked about is a phasing process, the phased approach. The first phase would be the renovation of that area. Again, it's outlined in red. And then building vehicle storage, wash bay, and 2 bays of the vehicle maintenance bay. They're going east. And then we're gonna add the next phase of the work. We'd add a third vehicle maintenance bay and additional vehicle storage. And then there was also a future provision for additional for fuel island. So any questions about the concept of the program thus far? No? Okay. So then in terms of the next steps and schedule, this is the schedule that we actually included in our proposal. We always start from the end date and work our way back. So in this case, what we assumed was it was an end of October town meeting date, and we worked our way back. We assumed you would need everything in advance of 2 months in advance of the town meeting date. And so, as Steve mentioned, this is kind of high level right now. I think we'd like to dial in with you folks and Steve, how this schedule lays out. But right now we're in the contract award, project kickoff, and site visit. Those will be scheduled soon. We've actually started reviewing available documentation. I don't know if there's going to be any new information.
There will be.
We've already scheduled the wetland delineation and survey. I'll get you that date shortly. Once just get that scheduled. We don't want that to hold up anything at this point. And then we'll be scheduling some review and confirmation. That's really where we'll take the program that we had. Dennis, I don't remember if you were involved in any step of discussions on the program, maybe on a high level, but.
The program was before.
Yeah.
I've been here since December of 2017.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you were.
That's when this thing basically started somewhere in 17, right?
It started before that.
Well, yeah, I was here for the conception, the
So-
conceptual committee, feasibility committee.
Yeah.
I was here for that.
Okay. So.
Got some wonderful pictures on my phone of it.
So as we go forward, what we're going to do is we want to sit with you, go through your program, go through the program that we have, go through your operations, see if anything's changed, and just make sure that we got the right program. We view this first step as so critical. It's kind of it's the foundation for your project, right? We're going to keep building on top of this, right? So we want to make sure we have it right. So we're going to go through that review and confirmation exercise. And then we're just going to confirm that the site works, or the existing concept works. And then we'll, once we are able to confirm that the concept itself works, then we'll schedule our geotech investigation, make sure we get the borings in the right location. And we'll start our schematic design process in terms of developing a basis of design report, and start developing the plans. We have in there time to get the schematic design package to our cost estimator. Our cost estimator needs probably 2 weeks to turn out their cost estimate. That's actually relatively quick for most cost estimators. I don't know if there's going to be a secondary cost estimate through the OPM. If so, we'll have to schedule some time for reconciliation.
Not during the schematic design.
Okay.
We'll approach that when we move on to DD and CD.
Great. So then we'll have time to build in a meeting to the select board and get all this information onto the town warrant. We also have in there, I skipped over this one, but that long orange line that you see on the schedule is really just your community outreach. So we'll work with you to try to figure out what's the best approach to get this project out to the community. Some public consensus, which is the key for this project. That's it.
To your point here, the timing is critical. The school district, the regional school district, just passed 3 debt exclusion questions. All packing in the neighborhood of $30 million. of which the town of Upton owns 54%. So, that's gonna hit. Probably not this year, but the following year. They can do a bond anticipation now. So the next thing is, it is those who are involved in this, and I've been on the finance committee much longer than I ever thought I'd be 30-something years ago. But the school district, we have reason to believe, is going to be coming with a general override in the spring, the spring town meeting. So therefore, it behooves us to get our act together and get this to the point so we can bring this to the town for the fall town meeting. And we're gonna have to probably have a special election to go with it, right, Joe? We're not gonna wait till the annual town election to do it, so.
Yeah.
We'll see how
I
that
think,
works.
As all along, one of the things that's always been a challenge for the community, to get back to what you're saying, is how much we're gonna be able to put towards a project and when's it gonna fit. So faster is better. And I guess we can get another question about just scope. Every project, there's a few of us here in the front here that are working in the design and construction world. We all know that every project's not getting everything they want and need. So we're gonna go through the choices and just figure out how to do that quickly. I think good thing is Dennis and his crew has been through this quite a bit. They know a lot about it. The feasibility, we broke it up because I was one of the people that was involved in it, to break it up so you can pick from the menu of like what we can do and cannot do. And then at this point, Mr. Finance Committee Chair, it'll be figured out like what the appetite is to fit within that exclusion that's gonna fit in our pie chart.
And not that we're gonna spend it all, but we have substantial amounts of stabilization, general stabilization, and capital stabilization. So I don't know, a couple of million. I could see that we could, Joe, is that a reasonable figure, you think? We could throw a couple of million stabilization money at it to reduce it?
That's gonna be one of those things with finance committee to that discussion as well. Be willing to.
I, knowing the committee, I do, I think, that'd be a reason, request, and I yes, don't want to speak out of turn, but I'd certainly be in favor of it. Given what we know now. Because this is gonna be, well, hopefully, we got the church thing over here, but this building is, if we don't get it now, we're not gonna get it. And if we get it now, this is gonna go 30, 40 years before we do anything, So if it doesn't happen now, it won't happen in my lifetime. So, we gotta get our act together, get the ducks lined up and convince the people we have to do it.
So it'll be easier for us to go in with the GMP in the fall. Last, right?
I didn't do what you said.
I mean, you want to go after a whole thing.
Oh, yeah,
In the fall.
it's gonna be hard to do it piecemeal. We're gonna, to this extent, and I think you agree, we're gonna have one shot. We got one shot at the apple. And, we gotta do it. No,
Totally agree.
Mr. Kirby went through it with us in the 5 years ago, something like that, so. It can be done.
Yeah.
You just gotta convince the right people to tell their friends that this needs to happen, that's all.
I just want to make sure I'm following the conversation. you're saying that you want to request the entire amount project at the fall town meeting?
I think so.
We are gonna be really challenged to show up in the spring to ask for that debt exclusion in itself.
I think one of the things Paul and Dan were sort of saying, like, we probably before waiting for annual town meeting, probably even contemplate a special if the fall special doesn't work. It all becomes a question on timing. We're trying to thread a needle here, and it's hard to sort of really probably nail things down right now. Couple months, probably have a better strategy to go forward, but we recognize that that's a very small needlehead we're trying to thread.
Because I mean, this first phase is schematic design, so when you're not, the details aren't.
Yep.
There.
A lot of the work has been done though. I mean, basically we just fine tuning what was done before.
Your program and your
Picking the program
space
and just
needs,
going,
Yeah.
accelerating that part of it.
and that's roughly 4 years, almost 5 years old at this point. I mean, the foundation is there. I mean,
Yeah, I think
that's a lot of work that's done. That's well in advance from starting
I
scratch.
think the good thing is in this community, the program doesn't change that fast. We move in decades, we don't move in years. In the way that the overall, like I said, I'd say like fire EMS hasn't changed that much over the years. We're in the same thing with DPW. I mean, you have had a few program changes in the last few years. I think a lot of it's been captured and caught basically in this effort.
Most of it's driven by DEP rules and regulations and stuff like that.
I think it's more important about the operational needs. The building's
Yeah.
not safe in
Yeah.
the current way it's being operated. I mean, there's from the indoor air quality and the admins of, a mess, the base, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So,
I think, I'm guessing where you were going with this is the programming part is probably like, it's been vetted a couple times through already. And to your point, it probably hasn't changed that much. And based on experience, you're probably right, but there could be some tweaks, some very subtle tweaks. But the real question is how accurate will that cost estimate be? It will be pretty good, but there'll be more vetting of the design process and the steps that follow that could have some cost implications as we move forward.
I think the biggest thing we're concerned about is that we've known like the energy code is a big change for all of us. And we're motivated to try to electrify or to try to decarbonize the heating system. Thankfully, those kinds of things. The rest of the stuff will sort itself out pretty quickly. That's probably the bigger choice. Like Dennis, from your standpoint, it comes down to the other big part of these buildings. The buildings are fairly straightforward. I mean, they're fairly simple buildings from a building typology standpoint. It's really about the industrial first, fix it, the equipment that goes into it.
Yeah.
And picking those things and making sure that the wash bays, the mechanics bays, the lifts, and some of those things are all, I mean, those are the things that probably didn't get accelerated far enough and fast enough. It could be like the bigger parts of like, what is a day in the life for the next few years or the next decade look like at the DPW to make sure we have all those things covered.
Mhm. We have a great staff that will be able to work through that. One of the most challenging parts will be the renovations. The code, the building code has changed, the energy code has changed. So there's a lot there. And the amount of investigation that's necessary with
I personally think you're literally taking the skin off that building. You just start from scratch. You're literally going to build a new edition of whether we can fit 2 and 3 together,
right.
or some hybrid of it. And then just going back and trying to swing everybody into that. And then just literally going to this other building. And it's a Butler building that's been beat up pretty rough over the years. You're going to reskin it. You're going to put a new roof on it. How can you not in this day and age? You're over the 20,000 square feet. on the energy code, so you've already tripped that threshold.
Right,
Go
right.
go for the systems. I mean, my other thing that comes down to is being around building design and planning and is right now is figuring out what to do with the mechanical, because that's what's driving everything.
Mhm.
We're really, the only way to really heat in this neck of the woods is geothermal. And can we do that? And do that quick and just go do the assessment?
Right. You want well water or
No, it's town water.
it's town water?
There's a sprinkler system.
That's good for the geothermal.
Yeah.
Right, we can, open loop system is cheaper, so. So it gives you some flexibility with that, if that's something you want to consider.
Yeah.
But we'll help you weigh all that, I mean,
I think in general, though, the basic building and how much we can build.
Yeah.
And get all the pieces. And I guess the bigger question for Dennis and the town manager and the rest of the team is, the salt shed's gotta get in there, right? I mean, that's like a must.
Salt shed has to be moved.
Yeah. And then the
This
question is,
division doesn't
do we
work.
all figure out how to get the fuel system in there that makes sense in this day and age?
I think, Dan, that when we talked about the fuel, we wanted to make sure there was a placeholder for it for down the road, but I don't think we were including it in this project.
Yeah.
Remember when Derek did his conversations with the board back then, he was talking about that's a buy-in from more departments in town than just DPW. Right, the police department, the fire department, everybody's gonna be using that, so that's a.
I'm gonna switch them all over to electric, so that's where the electric charging station.
We don't,
So,
you see
yeah,
the price tag on my next back.
And then downtime to charge it in between.
Yeah,
Obviously, we're gonna investigate
Yeah.
all of these things. And, we do want to sort of try and set up the working group members. I know it's gonna be Dennis and John, Weston Sampson, ourselves. I don't know if anybody else is going to be part of that. Those will, like I said earlier, those will be daytime meetings. But we don't want, a giant group. And what we come up with, then we'll bring that to the committee here. But, there's a lot of little discussions. Some are gonna be remote, some will be on site. I think if it's Dennis and John, is that good for you guys for a town
I
representative?
would probably make sure that somebody other than just John, because he's gonna retire this year, next year.
August.
Yeah, so I think you might want to find one water and one
I see.
Yeah.
one DPW person to add to that group, so you just have four, John, two others.
Yeah.
John's retiring,
John's retiring in August.
so we don't have
Against
to
my
burn,
better judgment.
so we don't have to burn the building down to get him out. Okay?
We just have to renovate it.
Yeah.
And expand it.
Well, I mean, you guys can think about that, let us know.
What would the daytime commitment look like from your experience? How often, how much?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How often and or of that,
Advising work schedule.
It's the working group.
the work groups.
Well, I mean, we've got somewhat of a short, even though it's all sounds like it's a long way away, but I mean, a lot of projects we do every 2 weeks, but some, if certain things come up, we try and fit those in. So I would say at a standard be every 2 weeks as a set meeting, and then certain things as they come up. And again, like I said, a lot of the work group meetings now are, you can do remote. You can, you can share screen and so forth. So it helps with that, but there's gonna be some more we're gonna be on site or visiting.
Or you make sure the committee knows if somebody in the committee wants to join a particular meeting, just let them join.
And we'll try and pick a day where it's,
Yeah.
every Wednesday at such
At
and
certain times.
so that people can
plan it.
really
Yeah.
get their schedules. But
Well,
we'll let you know.
we did over here, we have the construction meeting every Thursday. Every Thursday, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, that way it gets ingrained in your
I
head.
mean, that way we got a couple of people on the committee could jump in on a specific thing, like you could jump in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's something I know in advance, I can usually work my schedule around.
Then you get somebody like me that just has time,
Then it does give you guys some snacks. Okay. Yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing that we just talked about, which I know Steve's like, okay. But faster is gonna be better, right? I mean, that scheme is.
Well, time is of the essence, I guess. You know.
I think my first few steps is,
You know, like I said, is review the program, review the layout, get back up to speed a little bit in a short period of time,
yeah,
and then start moving forward. So,
Is there any of that review that can be done tonight? We want to.
No, we should have JP here for that, yeah.
engineering wise, you're doing your own engineers, right?
What's that?
Your engineers are in-house, right?
Our engineers are in-house, yep.
That's like I said, one-stop shop, and if we don't
Yep.
look at something's pointing fingers at, right? Consultants, it's nice.
We don't have anyone to blame.
Yeah.
geotech also,
Geotech's also in-house.
but the drillers is.
The drill is separate, yeah, correct.
Yeah, he's a geotech guy always, yeah. you guys know. But other than that, everything else is in-house, that's awesome, yeah, I was just looking at the. As part of that effort, I guess my question for the larger group, and we have to schedule a meeting sooner rather than later. I just had a few questions on your proposal about, given that we just sprung the faster is more important. On the deliverable side, what would you tell us that you'd want to see in the deliverables? If you're gonna go faster to make sure you got everything in there? Typically SD's 15 to 25%. Do you try to lean into 35% because we know a little more? And do a little more with with engineering drawings, like mechanical, electrical, mostly.
Right, so that's actually a very good question, and while we were talking here and thinking of the next step and knowing that there's a good chance that you want to ask for that, those funds at this fall town meeting, there are some things that we're probably gonna want to vet a little further than usual. We're definitely gonna want to probably have some decisions on the HVAC and the MEP systems. We're gonna want to make sure that we have all the contingencies ironed out. One of the biggest unknowns is getting out of the ground. In this case, also, it's the renovations, and I know you're saying just strip it. But the renovations is also a big unknown. We want to make sure we have those. We don't want to be, bottom line is when we get to schematic design and we're asking for these funds at special town meeting with very little time to prepare the public, we don't want to be overreaching.
Yeah.
If we can avoid it, we want to have that number dialed in as tight as we can get it.
And Steve, I would just look at from your perspective, if there's a need to have a separate, cost estimate, if we try to figure out how to amp this up a little bit. Because the only way we're gonna be able to do that is if we create a GMP, basically, and go for it.
And with that, I mean, what we could also do is we'll have time before town meeting, and that's gonna be a question for Joe in terms of how can we word that warrant article so that if we do decide to get a second estimate, could that come in after the warrant article is written, or how can that warrant article be written so that it buys us more time to town meeting?
I mean, if that's the direction we're going in, I would highly recommend getting that second.
Yeah.
Look, so and to do the reconciliation. It's just at this, we sort of, the way we worked it because of the appropriation that you have, just wasn't in there.
Yeah.
Dollar wise, I mean, unless there's some other way that.
Joe, annual 4 weeks. Special 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's really quite.
It's, I mean, the annual warrant has to be posted 4 weeks ahead of time. The special warrant has to be posted 2 weeks.
Could you hold like a blank line that the final number gets plugged in 2 weeks before, just before it's posted for warrant?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I'm not really worried. And we've already done it with some. I'm not really worried about
The key to that though is, what if you do put a number in, early and you want to change it. Don't go up.
It can only go down.
Oh, I know. This,
So
right, this is a $50 million project. We just put it in and hey, we just saved tons of money. Look where we are now.
I don't want to go there, Jeff.
And we use clickers now.
We got a lot of kids.
Town meeting.
Let's just say, we have a lot of consigliere residents. So we have knowledgeable residents designing construction of buildings. We probably have at least a dozen project managers and superintendents.
yeah,
There's at
They're
least,
right next door.
there's at least two.
Yeah,
Justin and the other kid that was on the,
and we got a bunch of local construction people. Not afraid of them.
all right,
I think what you may want to do though is get that next bullet.
that's just what I was doing. I'm standing here saying, we got this guy doing all kinds of stuff here, and he ain't waiting sign on the dotted line. I guess, has everybody seen this contract? I had asked Joe to put it out. You got any comments? Anybody, any comments? John, any comments on the contract?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And just a point that scope of work and fee is going to be an attachment to a town contract.
Standard.
No questions? I'll take a motion to recommend execution of contract.
Like I said, I guess my question about was the.
All right,
Yeah, sorry about that. That was a question about just some of the deliverables. Because right now, there's two things in there that weren't in there that stood out, just as from the conversation.
Yeah.
We just had, which is just a narrative for engineering systems.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we're gonna have to do a life cycle analysis to make a choice, right?
Right. Yeah, so
That's pretty typical going to SD in this day and age, most projects.
what we can usually do is we can talk about our experience on other projects, give you the hard data and what we'd expect.
Okay.
If that's not enough for you, what we can do is a high level life cycle cost analysis that will
Yeah,
get you through that decision.
just to put a box around those choices.
The answer should become pretty clear in most cases.
Especially on the geothermal, it's the return on the investment versus the upfront cost.
Exactly.
Sometimes can put that right off the table pretty quickly.
What's the same with geotech? You want to know more about this sort of conditions
Right.
and have that be part of the work.
Right. Yep. Yeah, and the wild card with the systems like geothermals, the grants, and what can you get for money on that? And the hard part for municipalities is you have to have that money. Yeah, you can't allocate money less than that, so.
We go.
Exactly.
Now they know that the home is fairly.
you good now?
Yeah.
Motion to execute the contract, recommend the contract.
Make a motion to recommend the contract.
Motion made and seconded to execute the contract. Any more questions, discussions? John, any questions, discussions? I'm gonna say,
Nope. No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
all right, all in favor, let's see, roll call vote, all fire the aye.
John Moe and I, People running that.
And Lazar's aye.
John,
John Westerling, aye.
that, and it's action, present, majority action. Okay. The big step. Next steps. Up to, now it's up to you guys to decide when we want to do this again. Oh,
We'll,
you know, I guess probably you don't have to decide now, but
yeah,
I think it would be no sooner than, a month from now.
Yeah.
But it may be better to let's get moving
Yeah.
on it. There's no sense in having a committee meeting. There's really nothing to.
I totally agree. I totally, that's what I was saying. You decide
Okay.
when we want to bring this group together again.
At some point in the project, it will be monthly, provided that we get everything that we want. Construction, but at this point, it's early on, so let's get going with the working group.
And what is the preferred way of meeting? Do we like to do screens, or I kind of have I favor the in-person thing myself, but I'm willing to go along with anybody else. So.
The hybrids work.
Hybrid's way to go. 'cause you get
And
the
they're
screen.
still okay as far as state.
That's fine.
Actually, I think we actually have to be hybrid, right? We have to offer it because we're technically a public body and we have to have
We,
a hybrid.
we can be only in person. It's just, if we're gonna have some number of participating remotely, then we have to make
We have to do it.
And it's easy enough just to set up, and I think we're all used to it now.
Because I think one of the things that's nice about this versus like a community center, I don't think you're gonna have a tremendous amount of community interaction, one touch, just to kind of really put it out there. And I think more importantly, it's about having the rest of the town departments participate a little bit. That's probably just as important, if not more important.
Well, one of the things you're talking about, the community outreach, when we did the community center, we came up with a bunch of questions, FAQs, and we put them out there and gave people a week or 2 weeks to comment on them.
We had a survey period where
Yeah.
people could write in.
That was
it defined and then answer those, put those out as FAQs. Started out with some other FAQs.
Yeah, but that was a thing that was gonna affect the whole community. Everybody's going in and out of it.
Everybody's in that building.
Well, this one, the biggest question is gonna be, how much is it gonna cost me?
Bingo.
That's the number one question. So
Yeah. And that's
you,
that's why we gotta get it to the front of the line before the school gets there.
you may want to add to the next committee meetings, public comment as a bullet. Just because most likely no one's gonna call in, but they may. And at least if you've offered it, and then you say, well, we had public comment on all of our meetings, in addition to some, public outreach at the community center, or, set those up and advertise them online. And we've all experienced it where you don't have that many show up, but you had it. You can say you've had it. If someone says, I didn't know anything about this.
Years ago, we used to have a week before, or so before the town meeting, finance committee had have, okay, we're gonna have a meeting. Come and ask your questions. 6, 8 people. Probably of the 6 or 8, 5 were town employees. Wanted to know how much their salary was gonna be.
A lot of times the people that are already for the project show up, but again, it's just making sure you have that, have an update for the select board. All of that's televised, or videotaped, or Zoom, whatever.
Well, we
I
can,
guess just asking, is what we're asking for feasible? As far as being able to put this together and get this by the end of the year, like we're looking for in this path to accelerate schedule? Are you guys seeing any concerns or anything other than knowing that this is changing, but like?
We definitely have concerns, yes. I'd be lying if I said no, but I mean, we're gonna look at it. I mean, we've designed project where someone said, this is the budget you're designing down. This is sort of somewhat how we're at this point, so.
that's how we do things.
No, I
Once
mean,
we feel, but
to you, I guess I'm in agreement. The biggest unknown here is when we get that schematic design and we have that price, where do we go from there? Do we say, okay, this isn't gonna pass? So then we have to go back to that drawing board and figure out how do we get that price down to something that we think is gonna be appealing to the public. No. Been there before.
Maybe FinCom can help in the summertime, or you can have a meeting. After the-
Just like the capital budget committee did.
I think we gotta to do it, sure. I think it's gonna be important to figure out what the debt exclusion looks like, what it needs to be. I don't think it's, like you said, I think personally, I'm not like the hard number approach, but there's a hard range. There's no question about
Yeah.
that. So people know what's going on, because like I said, their tax bills are gonna get hit with some exclusions are coming.
That's all we gotta know. That's the first question they ask, how much it's gonna cost. And as I used to, we go to the school meetings and all with them. First guy, do all you want talking, the guy's gonna say how much it's gonna cost me. He don't care what you're doing, he just wants to know how much you're gonna cost.
I mean, we were talking before everybody showed up, we know a lot of, some of the original committee members from the original building here. So some of the things like extending the building, that was already in the intent at the time.
Mhm.
How well they executed that in the actual build and the site preparation and stuff. To your point, don't guarantee, but it sounds like most of the things that we're hoping are aligned should have been addressed or are in a spot.
There was some foresight with that building, and it was like the Nipmuc High School, there was foresight down there, when they put those wings on. They can go 2 rooms too high on each wing. Whether or not they'll ever do it, I don't know. You know, but that was part of the design.
I think most of the cases, I think they said some of the utilities that weren't there when that building was built. Why it's got a septic system was because the school wasn't built next door yet, came 3 years later.
Got it.
So all the things that were necessary came a year or 2 after that building was built. Sewer invert hopefully should work, it's close. That one might be a little close, we don't want you to have to pump
We
it.
may end up with a lift station.
If you have to pump, you have to pump.
I don't think we have to put a full-blown pump station in, because you're just doing that one facility. So you could just do a lift station.
Yeah, we,
Lift.
yeah, it's,
You know what I mean? Twin pumps, 2 alarms, set different heights,
Yep.
send it out.
I even think that should hopefully be a little lower.
Because that's not gonna break the bank. You're not talking about $1 million.
And it's already got a 6-inch water, I think it's a 6-inch water source that comes in there for.
Yeah, it's gotta be at least a 6 as a
And
hydrant.
our water system's ridiculous.
But the sewer's right out on the corner of Maple Avenue, isn't it? Or
It's right on the intersection,
Yeah,
intersection of Maple and Pleasant.
It's a little bit of a long run.
yeah,
It's the building site so low.
they raised the building a foot higher.
Those are all the bathrooms upstairs.
And what,
All right,
we good?
are we done?
We got all the agenda items?
Everything here. Talked about the next steps and we did all that, so, next meeting is to be determined by these, based on these gentlemen's, homework that they have to do for us. All right, motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank you.
Second,
I'll make a second.
all in favor, roll call vote, all Larry, aye.
John Moon, I, Dave O'Brien,
And Lazar's aye.
John Westerling,
John Westerling, aye. Thank you very much.
You lit up.
yeah, you did that.
done?
Well, it's there.
He's not there. All right,
Aye.
yeah. Motion to adjourn, John?
So moved, yes, aye.
Yeah, he's trying to talk. It's not going.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen.